Hey guys, it's Cal here. I'm back in my home in Florida and just wanted to introduce this second video. This is our second trip to Africa, and my son went with me this time instead of my wife. And they allowed him to shoot a crossbow over there. When we got over there, it was late September, early October, so it was starting to get hot. And when we got there, we were the only two guys in camp. So they allowed my son Cody to hunt some also. We had a really good trip, a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy this footage. Okay, I want to say something here real quick about the impala. For some reason, the impala have been one of the hardest animals for me to judge trophy quality on. It has to do with the size of the animal as much as the size of the antlers or the horns. Sometimes you get a small, young animal and the horns look big. Sometimes you get a animal like this one who's obviously mature and the horns don't look that big, but they actually are. So go ahead and look for the heaviness of the horns, especially at the bases, and obviously the overall length. But if you get one where the tips of the antlers are starting to flare out, that's usually a good indicator that it's older. And usually if it has a very deep sweep back, almost like a chair, that's a good indicator as well that it's a good impala. I've killed two impala now with my bow. Both of them I thought were really good ones, and when I walked up on them, they weren't as good as I thought, usually because the animal itself was younger and the horns looked bigger. Okay, I put this little clip in just to give you some perspective on how close you can actually get to these animals hunting over water. This kudu is not more than 10 yards, maybe closer to 8. The next animal that came in for us was the blesbok. I didn't see many blesbok on my first trip, but this second trip he was high on my list, mainly because there's a lot of blesbok and they're really not very expensive. They're fun to hunt. One good way to judge the trophy quality on these blesbok is to look at the length of the face. The antlers should be as long, or the horns should be as long as the face, if not a little bit longer. Another thing to look for is a thicker diameter of the horns, as well as the white rings around the horn that are turned kind of a white color. And you can see in this picture the middle blesbok is the bigger one. If you watch the first video in this series, you'll know that I took my wife the first time. She didn't want to go back the second time, so I took my son Cody. The PHs where we were hunting this time were gracious enough to let him shoot a crossbow and let him get in on some of the action. But before we show some of his hunts, I wanted to talk a little bit about the zebras. When I first went to Africa, I wasn't planning on hunting a zebra. And then after I got there and I realized how beautiful they were and what great rugs they made and how smart they were, they quickly jumped up on my list. This was the first day we were hunting that zebras came in, and I was very excited to get a shot off at one of these. I did not make a great shot on this zebra. I hit him a little too far forward. As it turns out, the zebra have a main artery that runs through the front of their chest, which I hit, and we eventually were able to recover this zebra. But that little bit of information will come in handy if you're hunting zebras, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute.
So, what was the lesson of today? Video sideways, not like this.
Make sure it's recording.
Yeah, make sure you press record.
As soon as I shot the zebra, the blue wildebeest that were around decided to come back. Cody was able to get a good shot off on a nice blue wildebeest. Unfortunately, I was filming and I forgot to press the record button, so I didn't get it. But there's a short video clip here that shows an elevated blind we were in and where Cody's blue wildebeest fell. It ran maybe 75 or 80 yards from the blind. I mentioned a minute ago that we'd talk a little bit more about the zebras. This little video clip I got here is actually 6 minutes and 2 seconds long. And ordinarily I would edit that down, it's too long, but I just wanted to show this clip in its entirety to show you a typical encounter with zebras. Zebras are very smart. If you'll notice, when they come to the water, they came and they face you right away. They come straight in. and when they come in, they usually line up all in a row. The zebra stripes are not great camouflage in the bush, but it's their best camouflage when they line up next to each other, and predators can't tell where one starts and the other one stops. So typically they'll line up just like this, facing you when they come in. Typically they'll drink for a minute, and when they get ready to leave, they'll turn and face away from you and walk off. It's very hard to get a good broadside shot on these zebras. So after discussing this with our PH, he told us that because that main artery runs right through the front of the chest on a zebra, a frontal shot is not a bad shot to take, especially if you have a very fast crossbow or your compound bow is very fast or they're very close. You don't want to be taking this shot if you haven't practiced and you're not proficient with your weapon, but as you will find out here in a little bit, that frontal shot can be very deadly. But I wanted to show this whole 6-minute clip because Cody is set up on the tripod with his crossbow and is ready to shoot. He is not just sitting there waiting, he is ready to pull the trigger. And after watching these zebras for a full 6 minutes, we never did get a shot off. Also, usually a group of zebras like this will have at least one stallion in the bunch, and a lot of times the stallion will set off to the side and drink later or come in later. That's what happened here. This stallion stayed longer than the rest, and even though we tried to get it to stop, we never could get a shot.
Make sure make sure when they turn, you gotta be ready when they turn. And then also make sure there's not one behind the other. I mean, when you shoot, make sure there's not one behind it. That's okay, this minute will take your time. I want to drink it once it turns, I'll shoot it. That one is on that. Yeah, either one. Right in the shoulder on this. Oh, man. That's okay, don't worry about it. That's the problem, they all walk together. Listen, if you need to, use your voice and make a to stop him.
So here the stallion has come back in to water after all the others have left, and you can watch as this stallion starts to walk off. He starts to get a little suspicious. We try to stop him with our voice. He goes all the way out till he's behind a tree before he'll stop and turn back and look. They're very smart.
What is that, about 25 yards? I can't believe that. Now he stopped. He's still within range. He's 40 yards. Shot to the chest.
Another animal we wanted to get to Cody was a gemsbok. Sometimes in Africa, especially if you go to a good place like this one, you don't have to worry about seeing animals. Sometimes you have to worry about seeing too many animals and knowing which one to shoot and which one not to shoot. But this was a fun afternoon.
No, the one on the left. The farthest left. Actually, that's that third one there. The one in the back, yeah. I'm good. You shoot when you got a shot. That one on the far left is good too. You got a shot on the crap, what happened? These giraffes have got 2 more giraffes. Which one? Let's just be patient here for a second. Those ones in the back are gonna want water. Yeah. The third one is big, is a little bigger. The one that's brought. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, just a hair behind it. Behind the shoulder, right in the crease. Perfect shot, right there. Perfect shot. Oh, he fell. Holy.
This afternoon we had a really nice waterbuck come in with some female waterbucks, and I was just getting ready to shoot it with my bow when we had these other 3 zebras come in, and I decided then that I'd rather Cody get his zebra with the crossbow, and I could try for a waterbuck later. So Cody got set up on these zebra, and like we talked about earlier, now we have a little bit more information about these zebras. You can tell they're facing us again, but this time we were prepared to take that frontal shot if it presented it. These zebras are only about 20 yards away, and Cody was deadly accurate with that crossbow. Next up, we had this really nice warthog come in one day, and Cody just hammered him with the crossbow. This particular concession we were hunting had an absolutely huge waterbuck on it, and they asked us not to shoot this one just so it'd have a chance to breed in the herd a little bit more. We had an interesting encounter with this old eland bull. As it turns out, this bull had been shot before. It was kind of sickly looking. It was very old. His horns were broomed way off. But we ended up getting a shot anyway. It's interesting, it was starting to get dark. We had already called for the truck to pick us up. And if you notice, right before I shoot, this eland bull picks his head up and is listening. He actually hears the truck coming. Because he heard the truck coming, he lifted his head and gave me a good frontal shot at 18 yards.